Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Monday Nights with NABA and CABA. My name is Tony Adams, and I'm the Vice President of the Kansas Auto Body Association. And on behalf of Kansas and our members, welcome to tonight's presentation. It's going to be a good one. As a reminder, everybody is in and muted, so be sure and use the chat box. The chat box is your friend, and my friend James and I will be watching for those, and we'll get them sent in as we can. So with that, I'd like to introduce my friend Grodis with Nebraska.
Hey, thanks, Tony. And Raider Nation, for today, everybody. We lost, but we're still here. We want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Again, I know everybody's tired. It's a short week, but we want to thank you for spending an hour on your business instead of in your business, which is where you're going to make leaps and bounds. Going to be a great presentation tonight. We got Danny from DEG here. And if you don't know how to use this product, this is a great product for you and for other shops down the road. So without further ado, Danny, take it away.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Tony and James and Gina, for having me on board today. Again, my name is Danny Gredinberg. I'm with the Database Enhancement Gateway. You also know us as DEGWeb, DEG, however you want to call us, the DEG. Reach out to us. We're here to help you. We are a free resource for your business and for the entire industry. So again, thank you to NABA and CABA for having me on today. So today, real quickly, I just want to talk about the antitrust guidelines. Today's call, we're not going to talk about labor rates or labor times, anything. We're not going to collectively discuss how we're all going to do something collectively. It's just for educational purposes, for when it comes down to estimating. So again, I'll quickly go through this. Please be advised that any and all meetings, the following guidelines for conduct shall be established and followed. We should not discuss subjects relating to price charge, discounts offered of any nature, hourly rate, employee benefits, or agreements made with third-party entities. Should any discussion of these items take place, said participants will be asked to refrain immediately, disregarding any pursuant discussion, and should said party deny such request, the meeting will be immediately disbanded. All participants are herewith notified that the material presented herein are not to be construed as information or direction to take concerted actions. Information can be utilized for individuals acting within their own judgment, making sound business decisions without agreements with other participants on this meeting. This notice is hereby understood by all participants with regard to the laws governing this conduct. So again, if you're not familiar with the DEG is an initiative that was developed to help improve the quality and accuracy of collision repair estimates through proactive feedback from the collision repair industry and other end users to the information providers that supply the databases for the various estimating products. Again, this is for CCC, Mitchell, and Autotex that we commonly use. The DEG is created and equally funded and maintained by the AASP and the SCRS. So again, a big thank you to our associations to create this free resource available to you. We are also an advocate for database issues beyond labor database inquiries. We work closely with the associations AASP, AASA, SCRS, and the CIC database task force in addressing macro database issues for all the sole purposes of motivating improved estimating and blueprinting platforms. Your feedback on this website and other database issues you feel need to be addressed is strongly encouraged. We are confident that you'll find the website easy to use, that the process will result in direct benefits to you, and that on a regular basis you will submit to the DEG any issues you feel is necessary needs to be addressed. So again, with the DEG, it's your way of calling out and reaching out for assistance when it comes down to when you're writing an estimate in one of the three major platforms. If you come across an error or an omission in the database. So instead of you having to reach out to the estimating system directly and sit on hold, email them, show them examples, you can funnel all that information into the DEG. The DEG and myself will go through it, verify the concern, and actually work on your behalf, and we will sit on hold. We will follow up with the information providers so that way you can keep working on your business and let me do that work for you. So one thing to remember is this is a free resource, and we have association support from the AASP, SCRS, and ASA, but we also have additional sponsors here throughout the industry. So again, please thank our sponsors and your association for making this possible, because your member dollars go towards this platform, the DEG, to allow this to be a free resource. So all we want at the end of the day is just accurate and clear information, and it to be the same across all levels. So whether you're a repairer, you're an estimator, you're a bill payer, you just want the same information to be across the board. Now, we do run across sometimes there's profile differences, and we're not here to fix profiles. We're just here to fix the estimating systems that everyone has access to for it to be on the same page. And remember, it's a guide only. The estimating systems are just a guide. And at the end of the day, it's up to us as the repair professionals to determine that we're doing the correct repairs and following OEM procedures. So not only just for ensuring that the repairs are done correctly, but also for the safety of the vehicle owner and everyone else around that vehicle when the vehicle's back on the road. So always reference the OEM repair procedures. I cannot stress that enough. And that's one thing that allows the databases to be as accurate as possible, is when we start referencing the OEM procedures. So the question comes down to, what's in it for me using the DEG? Well, it's a free resource. I mean, it's a huge thing. I mean, how many people love free things that, in their business? And, I sure as hell do as myself. And I love the DEG. Before I took on the DEG, I was a DEG user as well. I submitted inquiries and I saw a change and all that. So it's a free resource. And how does it work for you? So this is going to be an example that I'm going to run through, and this is something that everyone can relate to. And this is in this example, there was a time that I was blueprinting a vehicle, and it was on a Honda Civic. And when researching the OEM procedures, when I was doing my disassembly process, I noticed a note in the procedure. In the procedure, it said the upper clip must be replaced with a new one when the B-pillar upper trim is reinstalled. So I was like, that's perfect. I got to get that clip on the front end. So let me get that clip added onto the estimating system. When I went into my estimating system, and at the time it was CCC, I go to my pillars and rockers section, and then I see in the upper B pillar trim, number 3 was the pillar trim that I was R&Ing, and I see that there's a clip in there, but it wasn't allowing me to select it in the database. So that frustrated me, because I was like, this is crazy. A clip that was, that the procedure stated that needs to be replaced, I can't even select it in the system. So what do? I went to the OEM EPC, the electronic parts catalog, and I verified that part number 23 was available through the dealership or through the manufacturer. Now, why can't I select that in my system? Now I got to go through all this headache, and I got to manually add it. So once I found out about that, I went to the DEG, I submitted an inquiry, and in the top right corner, there's a button, Open Inquiry. You fill out all the requested information, add any attachments if you have any that would be applicable, and click Submit. It's really simple, literally. So as you can see, once you click Open Inquiry, it'll take you to a form you fill out, and then you can fill out the information, and then you click the next, add your attachments, and then it's all done. Now, in the top of the inquiry page, it's going to ask you for some personal information, like your name, your email address, and your phone numbers. You can set up your web browser. So if you're using Google Chrome, you can set it up so that way it saves that form setting. And every time you go to the DEG site, it'll automatically fill out the personal stuff. And then the only thing you're left doing is filling out the vehicle information or this in the database type. So it really helps you fill out that page faster, and that you can see on the left side of the screen the personal side of the information. And we really only need the one with the red asterisks next to the information. Everything else is optional, but we just need your name, your phone number, and your email address. And it's really important because that I get the contact information, because don't be surprised if you submit an inquiry that I might call you, and you might hear from me myself just to follow up on it, because it could be something that I can help you just resolve immediately. So make sure you have the correct email and phone number in there, and that way, we can get you the information you need that you're requesting. Once you fill out the inquiry, and this is an example, we fill out the inquiry, and then we put the summary. The part is pictured but not available to select as a separate part in the system. Part is also considered a one-time use clip in order to R&I the center pillar trim. And then we were requesting to add that part in the footnotes, and then we added an attachment for CCC, so that way they can see that this is an actual part that you can order from the dealership. So once we submit the inquiry, we're going to get an email confirmation, and it's going to be a successful inquiry submitted is going to be one that you get an email confirmation with an inquiry number. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to get notified on my end, and then it's going to be for me to review and verify the concern. And then once it's validated on my end that it's a confirmed issue in one of the 3 estimating systems, I can then process it to the information provider that you selected on the inquiry. So once the information provider has received the inquiry, they're going to process the inquiry and obviously validate the concern. And then they're going to make a couple selections. You're going to see a couple of responses, either an IP resolved no IP change or a resolved IP change. An example of a no IP change would be something that the IP stands, and when I say IP, by the way, information provider, it's something that the estimating system company stands behind with no reason to update the system. Or if they do change it, it's going to be an IP change in that they do recognize that there's a reason to update the system. So once they confirmed the issue, they acknowledged that there was a concern in the database, they came back and added this part with the resolution that the IP was changed, if you see right here in the status, and they added that part in the system. And at the time, this was in 2017, but they added the clip with the part number and a price. And take a look at that price, 35 cents for that price, for that clip. And then they also added a note that the part is included with the center pillar trim and it's not reusable, replace only. And then they also updated the graphics to make it a selectable item. So all that work we did over a 35-cent clip, was, researching the procedures, then verifying that in the OEM and PC, and then, because it wasn't available, we had to submit it and do all that work. Otherwise, imagine the work that would have happened had we not selected that clip and we had to keep manually adding that into your database each and every single time that you're manually adding parts into your system. Not only that, many of you also know that when you manually add parts or the more manual lines, depending on if you're on a program with someone or not, those manual lines throw flags. So keep that in mind. Something like that should be in the database, and if you want to reduce those manual entries, submit those DEG inquiries so that way we can get parts added to the database. The other thing that this also alleviates is, had you had that information on the front end, imagine you knowing that you had to have ordered that part in the CCC. You can order it, you can select it, you can receive it all in time, instead of having your technician come to you on Friday at 3:30, right before that car's about to leave, and say, hey, hey, Mr. Estimator, Mrs. Estimator, I need that clip that you forgot to order. Had you known, we could have reassembled that car. Now you're talking about calling the dealership, researching that clip, verifying the part number, only to find out that clip is not available for another 3 days because it's at a PDC somewhere halfway across the country. Now you've delayed that car over a 35-cent clip a couple days now over the weekend, and you could potentially be paying a rental car. You could be, having an upset customer, all because you didn't have that clip, available on the front end. And that clip, for example, is a safety item, considering that, it has to do with your upper B-pillar trim, which also correlates with your airbag, your roof airbag system. So if you just, put whatever clip in there, would that vehicle react the same, given that, you would have let that car go over the weekend, would that car react to the same, God forbid it went to another accident. So you don't want to put your customer in that situation to find out the hard way over a 35-cent clip. So had we known that information up front, we could have had, it in the database selectable without doing the back end, research and hours it takes to find that little clip. So once we get an information provider change, you're not going to see an update for usually a month or so, especially if the change happened, if this inquiry submitted in the beginning of the month, because now you're waiting till the following month. And even in this time of the year, we're not going to see updates happening until January of next year, even though that's only about a month and a half away. But keep in mind that the update does take a while, and it's going to happen on the following months, for example. So what do you do when you get a change to your inquiry? You can support it with a line note, and you can go to put a line note in your estimate line while you're changing that line operation, while you're modifying that labor time when you see a change on that response. And that way you can help support it. So that way, if anyone's questioning you, you have a DEG inquiry to support it. And many times you may get a, or I'm sorry, not many times, but hopefully you don't get a call, from someone or like a bill payer or an adjuster, saying, who's the DEG? What are they? Are they the estimating systems? Well, all we do is just take the information straight from CCC, Mitchell, and Auditex and just publish it on our website. So it's really, it's not like it's my opinion or my response. This is straight from the information provider directly. So, if they're requesting the response directly from the information provider, I can even provide that as well, because all I'm doing is just housing the responses from them on our website, which is viewable publicly. So I'm gonna stop and if we have any questions, feel free to ask any questions. I'll kind of stop throughout the way, and so that way if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Do we have anything?
No, I think we're good to this point, buddy.
Awesome. So what else can you use the DEG for? So say you have a question and you're not sure if it's something that may have been asked already in the past. You can go on our website and we have a database that you can search from regarding all the inquiries. Right now we're somewhere in this 16,500 inquiry range. So you have about 16,000 inquiries that you can go through and search. And instead of having to go one by one, you can search using keywords. So on our website, for example, you can go to our database tab and then click on the search bar, and you can type in a keyword. And for example, is protecting the interior sparks an included operation? I get asked this question many times. We can go to our search bar and type in the word weld sparks, and just again using keywords, and it will once you search it, you can filter it by database, by platform, by by area of vehicle, by vehicle type. But if you want to know every inquiry that has the word sparks or weld will come back, in this case, we can quickly filter through the inquiries that were previously responded, and we can identify if there's an answer that we may already have that's been answered previously. So in this case, when we type in weld sparks, we'll get we went through the 4 inquiries that it came back with, and then you'll see one of the responses from CCC indicated that an additional work to cover and protect items are not included and should be an on-the-spot evaluation regarding this topic. So again, you can copy and paste that, and this is straight from the CCC or Motors in this case. You can copy and paste the inquiry link if someone's questioning, why you're manually adding that labor line, because it's a not included operation. So that helps support, why you're adding that operation onto your repair plan. So some estimating tips that I like to share with everyone, and this is something that over the years of reviewing estimates, excuse me one second. Over the years of me reviewing estimates, I see estimates of all natures, and I see them from advanced riders, I see them from novice riders, from new riders. And one thing that I personally can't stand when I see an estimate is an estimate that's out of order. I like to write in line with the damages, starting from the front to back, back to front, from top to down, things like that. So that way you're not starting with the headliner, working your way out to the quarter panel, back to the wheel, to the suspension. You can group your estimate, according to the database if you want to. So that way when you're reviewing your repair plan on the estimate, you can follow it back on the car, not jumping all over the place. So that's just a little tip that I want to share with everyone when it comes down to writing estimates. Start and work your way from the outside, outside in or inside out, but make sure you're working so that way as you're next to the car, you're not jumping, from right to left, left to right, back and forth. So that way you can really make sure you capture everything. Another thing that I encourage every repair or anyone writing a repair plan is having a strong parts code table in your estimating system profile setup. And these parts code tables would be things that you commonly use in your consumables, like your seam sealers, your cavity waxes, manual entries for labor considerations. I see things like washing cars, things like that. So you're not having to constantly type it all in there. And also when you have a parts code table, organize it into groups, so that way you have if you have an administrative section, you can group it all together, and as you're going down that loose list of parts code operations, it's all categorized, so that way you start with administrative stuff, then you can go into like body repair operations, refinish operations, mechanical operations, of all those manual entries that you commonly put into your repair plan, so that way you're not having to type it out every single time. It's a great reminder as you're going, once you finish your repair plan, to go through your parts code operations, because majority of the times that's where all the not included operations are going to stick out from, and also you're going to be able to capture all those missed opportunities, which create the bottom, which affect your bottom line numbers when it comes down to being profitable. Lastly, you want to go through, utilize tools out there, and there's free resources and tools out there available. And the SCRS has a great resource out there, and it's free to use for everyone. And that's a complete guided repair planning. That complete guided repair planning will allow the estimator or technician, you can print it out, and it will have commonly missed operations. I think they're up to over 1,000 right now of commonly missed operations, and it's all grouped into per panel. So that way, if you're writing to repair a hood, it's going to remind you on that document, did you consider the corrosion protection? Did you consider the R&I of the nozzles? Did you consider the labels, the weather strips, things like that? So that way it reminds you without having to, have that all up in your head. And, as busy as we are, we have interruptions from technicians, from, estimators, from customers, from insurance companies. Having that document, really helps you, just remember and capture those opportunities. We also have an estimate toolbox section, which has a plethora of information when it comes down to education and reminders in there of commonly missed things and not included operations. And last but not least, take it one step further. If you want to digitize it and automate your repair planning process of capturing all your missed opportunities, check out the SCRS bot tool, because that tool is, again, a game changer when it comes down to what we have in this industry. And that the bot tool will help you identify and analyze your estimate within seconds of any potentially missed operations based on your repair plan, and then helps you identify those things and add those things onto your repair plan quickly and efficiently. So it's a great tool that works with your estimating system, that interacts with it in terms of using a Windows copy and paste feature, so that way it can add those operations onto your estimate. So it's a great resource out there. Any questions coming in, or anyone on the call?
No questions yet.
Awesome.
Good stuff, though.
More information, free information. I know everyone loves that word free. So on the DEG's website, degweb.org's estimate toolbox section, you will have access to all three information providers' P pages. Whether it's the CCC, Mitchell, or Auditex, they each have their own acronym for them, but you have access to them. They're all free, and they're all online and live and always updated with the latest and greatest information that they have in there. So you can access it from your website, from your estimating system. So if you have access to CCC, Mitchell, or Auditex in your shop, you can access it directly from there. If you're using one of the three programs and the bill payer uses a program that you're not familiar with, you also have access to their P pages on our website. So this is what it looks like when you access the CCC P pages on their website. You can go to their live P pages, and then again in the upper right corner you have a search function, which will also let you type in a keyword, and that way it takes you straight to any document in that P page that has that word associated with it. Or you can again commonly reference your labor procedure, your labor time premises, and again it's always important to just have a general understanding of all these items on the left when it comes down to knowing the estimating system ins and outs, and what each for example, definitions of acronyms, or how the system operates, or the logic involved. So that's CCC. We have Mitchell online, again, very similar looking, except Mitchell has its own different set of P pages. And again, you can search in the upper right corner. And then Auditex, you can download this. It comes up as a PDF, which is downloadable, so you can download it and print it, or you can just keep it online. And you can search for keywords in Auditex. And the way you do that is using the Control F feature and using the Find feature. And again, your browser will allow you to type in a keyword, and it will take you to any page that has that keyword, or the word that you're searching for. So every Monday, the DEG publishes estimating tips, and these estimating tips are sometimes basic reminders, sometimes they're more complex and technical. But if you want to be a subscriber to these estimating tips, they come from SCRS, and they look similar like this, you'll get an email from SCRS. But again, if you want to be added to the estimating tips to automatically get those from the SCRS, send an email to info@scrs.com, or you can go on our estimate toolbox section. If you look in the upper menu bar, the estimate toolbox, you'll go to estimating tips, and then you can view all the estimating tips that we have published in the past. More free things that we do at the DEG. For a while, we made some quick comparison charts comparing all three estimating systems in operations that are common to each other. So you may have seen these come out in the past, and these are all published on our website. And these are, again, quick comparing estimating systems, CCC, Mitchell, and Autotex for common operations when it comes down to various repairs needed on vehicles. So we have, this was made for like glass operations, comparing all three systems. This one was made for, welded panel replacements, moldings and decals. So again, this is a really quick reference tool. So that way, if you're using one program and the bill payer is using another one, and when you're reviewing the estimate or having a discussion with them, you can quickly identify things right off the bat. Now, obviously, footnotes and head notes will take precedence over any of these included, not included operations, but it's a great starting point, to just quickly verify, instead of having to, scrounge through all the P pages and locate that. This is a huge thing that I still, when I'm reviewing estimates, I see the question comes up a lot. They're always asking me, but material cost, and material cost is a really, it's something that I see literally being thrown away, and I see the opportunity being thrown away of capturing all those opportunities to what you use on the vehicle and getting that on your work order. And whether you're using an hourly rate system, if you're using an invoicing system, just reminding you, materials are never included in labor time development in any of the estimating systems. And when we're talking about materials is more than just what gets sprayed out of a paint cup and that, or being mixed off your mixing bank. There's so many materials that we use in a repair process, whether it be the cup that you're spraying the product out of, whether it be the gloves that you're using to protect yourself, the cavity waxes, the seam sealers, the sandpapers, the masking tapes. If you look right there, there's you guys might see that little boron killer made in Germany drill bit. That looks like a pretty cheap tool right there. Just imagine your technicians just grabbing 10 of those tips out of your parts department, and you're not getting reimbursed for those tips because you got to use 1, 2, 3. I'll be honest with you, I've totaled cars over drill bits just because the cost of these drill bits and how many I'm going to need was the deciding factor of repairing my car or not. And that was the reality of a repair. I'm not going to give up, I'm not going to give up, my profits, or I'm not going to give up the cost of these drill bits to repair a car, or on that, or I'm going to save something, or I'm going to work on another way because the manufacturer told me I need to use this specific product or material. You look when you weld a car, we use that paper, that spark deflection paper, or we're using the tips for the seam sealer nozzles. We want to capture those on the repair plans and make sure that you're looking at those items. And again, all three estimating systems acknowledge that it's a non-included operation. And again, whether you're using an hourly system or like an invoicing system, it's not included in all three programs. Any questions?
No, we have one person who is asking, do you have to pay to go onto SCRS to get that information, the commonly missed things?
If you want the free version, you can download the free version, which is free, which you will have to you can fill it out, and it's really simple to use. Or if you want to automate it, then you can sign up for the bot tool, and it'll talk about the pricing of the bot tool on the SCRS website. But there is a free version to use available on their website, and no login required, by the way.
And that's just the guide to estimating, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. This is something that I think as repairers or anyone writing a repair plan, we sometimes forget. And this is straight excerpts from all three estimating systems. I just love throwing this out there. And this is, for example, in the labor time premise for CCC, but times do not apply to vehicles with equipment other than that supplied by the vehicle manufacturer as standard or regular production options. If other equipment is used, the time may be adjusted to compensate for the variables. Removal and replacement of exchanged or used parts is not considered. If additional aligning or repair must be made, such factors should be considered when developing the estimate. And again, in the labor time premise, they've added language because of inquiries submitted from through the DEG when it comes down to things like trial fitting of a component. And the reason that we may be trial fitting of a component, it could be to verify dimensional accuracy of adjoining parts. Maybe you're trial fitting a component because you're not using the original part, or maybe you're using one from another vehicle. So if you need to do additional trial fitting or additional fitting of that part onto the vehicle, that's a not included operation. This is a pretty common operation, even when you're doing structural part, like a quarter panel or rear body panel. The time includes to take that new panel, align it to the car and to the adjacent parts, and that's it. But what about if you have to take that part and fit it because you're checking to see if the inner structure components are pushed in, or if they're in the correct position? Because many times, whether you're using an upper body measuring or some kind of measuring system, it's not always capturing the exact points that we need for connecting the welded panels or bolt-on parts to the vehicle. So if you're using it to verify dimensional accuracy, or if you're using some other type of part other than new OEM parts, that time is not included. Again, Mitchell, labor times shown in the guide are tenths of an hours or minutes, and are for replacement with new undamaged parts from the vehicle manufacturer on new undamaged vehicles. So think about that for a second. New parts from the manufacturer on new undamaged vehicles. How many of us work on that scenario right there? We may get the new parts, but how many times are we working on new undamaged cars? I would say 99% of the times that's not happening. So again, we want to really read the guides, read the P pages, and see exactly how these labor times were developed, because it's very quick to assume that the labor time is not accurate based on the published time. But look at the scenarios that we are put into repairing the types of cars that we're put into. Some of these vehicles, if you're working on a car in California, the weather conditions of that vehicle may differ from a vehicle in the Rust Belt that, or in the areas that use salt, or, that have different weather conditions. So are those variables that you want to consider? And again, Mitchell makes a statement right here. The actual time taken by individual repair facilities to replace collision damaged parts can be expected to vary due to the severity of the collision, vehicle condition, and the equipment used. So no two shops, are ever going to, operate the same, or, that's what we would assume is no shops or no two technicians operate the same. No vehicle damage is the same. These are all variables involved, and that's what we need to remember, that these estimating systems are a guide to just that. Autotext has the definition of remove and replace is an operation or a group of operations that are required to remove the damaged part and replace it with a new OEM or alternative part. Autotext time includes normal adjustment and alignment for correct fit, but here's the key word: does not include any duplicated efforts such as test fitting. Replace includes any operations over and above the R&I operations. So again, if you're having to do test fitting, beyond that first aligned to vehicle, not included operation. Okay. So again, we talked about comparing estimating systems earlier. And again, when you go to our website, you can go, you can go to the key pages. But one thing that I see repairers commonly do is we write a repair plan, and then we work with the bill payer, and they write a repair plan in a different estimating system, and we're trying to figure out, and we're trying to get these numbers to match up exactly by clicking on the same operation. So remember, you cannot compare any estimating system to one another. That's like comparing a Ford Focus to a Volkswagen Jetta to a Honda Civic. They're all four-door sedans. They all have wheels. They all have brakes. They all have gas engines, but that's about it. The technology inside is going to be different. The logic is going to be different. You know, how the computers operate are going to be different. So that's just about the same thing that applies for estimating systems. They all allow you to look up parts information, look at labor information that each system performed their time study on, and then generate a report. Other than that, they're not comparable to, you know, beyond that. So having access to the P pages is really important, because now you can see exactly what one system is including and the other one isn't. If you haven't seen an Auditex labor report, this is going to be one document out of all three systems that you're going to appreciate once you get your hands on this report. The Auditex labor report will take that estimate that you've seen and that doesn't make any sense, you know, to you, because it may include so many operations. But what it does is it takes an operation and then it expands it out into an expanded view report, so you can see what exactly is included with a time. So this is a quick example. You know, we're replacing some suspension parts, and when you see, you know, how the time, you know, and you're wondering how the time was developed, it will break it down, you know, every operation included with a component, as to what's included with that operation and how much time is being allocated to each included operation of that component. Whereas CCC and Mitchell, you're relying strictly on the footnotes or the P pages, but it doesn't even give you a time associated to all those included operations. And we all know that adding up time for cumulative operations are not the way that they develop their labor times. Whereas Auditex will, you know, show you exactly how they came up with their labor time for that replacement part. So in this case, you can see a tie rod end, you know, allows for 0.4 hours to replace, and then it shows you the breakdown and the net value, how much time is being, you know, allocated to that operation. So 0.2, for example, is being allocated to the combination front suspension, which is also known as raising and supporting the vehicle. And then it gives you the time to how much to replace the actual inner tie rod, and then how much time for the tie rod to the knuckle operation. And then it gives you the 0.4 right there. So again, that's a really cool feature of the Auditex labor report. If you're also working with a bill payer that uses this Auditex system, this labor report is not some proprietary or hidden document. They can share that with you, and they can print that report at the same screen as printing the estimate report. So that labor report is really important when you're trying to decipher and understand an Auditex estimate. So that way you can see what exactly is being factored. Otherwise, if you're questioning something, again, you're kind of just relying on a blank sheet on that first estimating page, which will just kind of tell you the replacement operation is this and that's it, but it doesn't give you the breakdown. And again, in the DBRM, which is the Database Reference Repair Manual, it talks about the labor report and what everything means in there. And again, it will give you the 3 columns. So as you saw on the previous page, you have the full value, the eliminated value, and the net value. And we talk about here any labor for specific operations before overlap considerations. The eliminated value is for an operation already considered in another operation. And then the net value would be, you know, after any overlap has been removed, because many operations may share common operations with each other. So again, it's just considering that operation to be factored one time on the repair plan. So again, we talked about using free resources. So on our website, we have access to, you know, more free resources on the DEG web. Lately, you might have heard, you know, some discussion talking about using owner's manuals. So again, if you go to the DEG's website, we have access to all the OEM's owner's manuals, and I made a link, you know, whether you're in the North America or Canada market, you can access all these owner's manuals, because there's going to be a lot of information that you may find in the owner's manuals that are not always available in the repair manuals. Also, I love using the owner's manuals because it helps me build my trust with the customer, the vehicle owner, and what their vehicle has and the options, and, you know, learning that vehicle with them and gaining their trust and confidence of, you know, why I'm repairing their vehicle the way that their manufacturer requires me to. So if you want to search through the glove box, you can. I don't always recommend it. You might find something in there you don't want to find, but you can find a digital version online, which is always updated. And if it has any revisions, it's always going to be published online. an example of why I would use an owner's manual, and the whole reason that I started using owner's manual and why I'm so passionate about the owner's manual was I was working on an Audi vehicle, and we all know that dreadful Quattro system, or if you're working on a Subaru, you know, the conversation always comes up when you're replacing tires. How many tires should you be replacing? And I don't like to, replace, tires, unnecessarily, or I don't want to go based on an opinion from a tire shop. I want to know what the manufacturer has to state. So I was, I had a Audi in my shop. I was replacing one tire due to a damage from the accident. And, I automatically assumed at the time that I'm going to replace all four because of the Quattro system. So I went head to head with the customer, and sure enough, told them I need all four tires, replaced to make your vehicle safe again. And I was challenged, and they said prove it. So I went to the repair manual thinking I'm going to find all the information in there, and it told me how to take off the wheel and tire from the vehicle and how to torque it back on the vehicle, but still nothing about the tires. I called the tire shop and I said, what do you think? And they said, well, of course you should replace all four tires. I said, do you have anything in writing? They said, no, it's just something that we've always done, from experience. I said, I don't need experience. I need something in writing. So one day I was just thinking, let me just check the owner's manual. And sure enough, I found the information in the owner's manual, and it said everything that I needed to be said right there. And it educated me in what I was doing wrong, so I can move forward and doing the right thing for the customer. And again, it stated right there, tires should not be replaced, or tires should be replaced at least in pairs and not individually. For example, both front tires or both rear tires together. And obviously that was a documentation that I needed, so I can call my customer and say, listen, I made a mistake. You don't need all four tires. Your two of your tires are still usable. At least if I replace one, I should at least replace the other one in pair, so that way they match. Everyone agreed, the bill payer agreed, and guess what? That was the documentation that we needed. So I started doing more and more research of the owner's manual, and I found so much information when it comes down to, ADAS systems, the acronyms, associated with it, inspecting safety systems, what type of parts, and all that stuff is sold with the vehicle, and all this information is with the car. It's free, and guess what? When you talk to the customer, you're explaining to them this is their vehicle that they purchased. This isn't something, some hidden document anywhere. So it shows the transparency involved. OEM One Stop is a great resource that I use for repair information, and housing all the OEM manufacturers into one easy to find link. While the repair information may not be free, it at least gets you to some of the free information, such as position statements, which I love using. So once you get into the position statements tab, you'll see whether it be part types that you're going to use, salvage parts, wheel repair, bulletins, airbag bulletins. All those position statements are available on OEMOneStop.com. And for example, there's going to be some manufacturers like Toyota that you have to access those crib bulletins or the position statements through the repair manual once you're logged in. But again, some of the manufacturers on there publish this information free to you. But again, this isn't a replacement of the actual repair information in the repair manual. We talked about all this stuff using repair manuals and owner's manuals, and then you're talking about, we haven't even fixed the car yet. We're just researching all this stuff, and that takes time. That takes, there's labor involved into researching, and not only that, there's also cost associated with researching, because some of these manufacturers, it could be $30 a day, it could be $60 a day, could be $8,000 a year, depending on what you're subscribing to, or what network you're in. So the time to research can vary depending on the vehicle and the type of repair you're working on. And not only that, the information can change daily without notice. I just ran across a recent update on the Ford F-150, the one that's the aluminum body truck. It's been out since 2015. And still in 2020, 5 years later, they're still updating the repair procedures for that truck. And whether they're removing a process or a procedure, or they're updating a procedure, it just shows that the information changes daily, and there was no notice of it, at all. There's no email from anyone saying, hey, this procedure got updated, so follow this new procedure. The only reason I came about it was because recently I was helping a buddy of mine, and I was assuming there was an area of the bedside replacement that you should not perform a specific process. And then I went in there and I verified it, and I go, wait a minute, this doesn't look the same as it did 3 weeks ago when I just researched it previously. So sure enough, again, I looked in there and I saw a new revision, and today's procedure now allows a specific process to be done, which wasn't allowed, 3 weeks prior. So that's why it's important to research every single car, every single time a new fresh procedure for that repair is necessary. And don't never assume that you should be using the procedures from yesterday or even 2 weeks ago or recently, on the previous car, that'll apply to you today. Any questions?
Nothing yet, buddy.
All right. So we talked about all this researching, and we've had inquiries come in, regarding research and, the costs associated with it. And, was it developed? And the question came down to, was it included in the labor time, when you replace a panel? So we got so many inquiries and questions asked that, when we talked to CCC and Motors, they found it necessary to update their labor time premises of not included operations. So you can see right here, they updated access to repair information and subscription cost not included in the labor times. If you scroll down on the labor time premise, repair information retrieval and lookup is not included. So again, we have these two areas circled right here, that the subscription cost is not included, as well as the time to retrieve the information and look it up. This also applies to things like researching EPC information. So if you're a repair that may work on a car that's not, there's no database information on, or I know there's a vehicle brand right now that CCC doesn't have the 2020 database on. Sometimes it's Nissan or Subaru, for example. If you're having to go in there and do all this extra research and locating the correct part numbers and look up the procedures and verify the labor operations, is that something that you may want to factor onto your repair plan? Again, that's defined right here by CCC and Motors, that these operations to look it up and research is not included. Now we have the same questions come in from Mitchell and Autotex. And while they have not updated their P pages yet for these for this specific question, they have responded formally from both Mitchell and Autotex on inquiries, which you can utilize. There's no questions as far as who it came from, because it was from the information provider directly. And you can see Mitchell stated, the procedure enhancement request will be taken under consideration for future updates. Labor associated with purchasing an OEM subscription is not factored into published labor allowances. And then Autotex, again, any labor related to research and or investigation of OEM, EPC, and or service information is not included in Autotex provided labor values. Any relative OEM information subscription costs are not included in parts nor labor values provided. So I think that's a really cool tip to have right there, and save these types of inquiries, so that way when you're repair planning, or if you're working with a bill payer that uses another program from yours, you can go in there and support your labor charge with these inquiries, because the response is from the information provider directly. I'm going to go and talk about now more DEG stuff, and these are all recent examples. Because again, we talk about what's in it for me, okay, I added a 35-cent clip we showed the example on, and now it's what other possibilities can be done with the DEG. And for example, I had a shop that recently submitted on a 2009 Kia Sorento, and the question came down to the rocker panel section time had only 5.5 hours. Well, after research and review, we submitted it to the CCC, and they came back in 24 hours. So the next day after submitting this inquiry, they validated the concern, and they increased the rocker panel time from 5.5 hours to 10.5 hours. So that's a 5-hour increase. Think about that, a 5-hour increase. Now, granted, how many people are repairing 2009 Kia Sorentos today? Probably not many, but imagine if someone had caught this, in 2009 or, even in 2010 or 11, how much this could have impacted all the repairs between then and now. Another recent example, and this is again, you may see this repair in your shop. a Chevy Colorado. This was a 2018 Chevy Colorado. I had a repair. They were doing a replacement of a rocker, the rocker, inner rocker and the rocker reinforcement. And the times that they had in there was originally 4 hours for the inner rocker, and the reinforcement was 4.5 hours. After they performed the repair procedure, they said there's no way this was done in that time. So they submitted an inquiry, and again, the next day, CCC confirmed and updated the inner rocker to 7.6 hours and the reinforcement to 6 hours. So the next day, they got a response from CCC. They went ahead and manually changed it. They documented the inquiry, their line notes. They said this was straight from CCC, and they were able to go back to the bill payer and supplement the additional time that was manually changed for their technician, for the shop. And guess who wins? The person working on the vehicle, the repair. The entire industry sees changes of that. So moving forward, everyone's going to get those new times in their databases. Some examples from Autotex. This is a pretty recent one for 2020 GMC Sierra. Again, a repair ran across a scenario where when they were removing and installing the roof antenna, that the time of 0.7 was not sufficient. So they submitted an inquiry, and again, with Autotex, they researched it, and they said, yep, you're right, it wasn't enough time. We're going to increase it to 1 hour. Now, a 0.3 increase, again, is that much? Again, working on the vehicle, that might be exactly what it takes to do it. And they've also defined that the headliner must only be lowered to gain access to the roof spoiler bolts. I'm sorry, this was talking about the roof spoiler. I'm thinking the antenna, but the roof spoiler. But the time was increased to reflect the time to drop the headliner, gain access to the headline to the spoiler bolts, and R&I those. And then keep in mind that this operation is based on one continuous step. So if that truck is in your shop and you're having to do some repairs around the roof, you have to R&I the spoiler. The time of 1 hour now includes to drop the headliner, remove the spoiler, and in that continuous time spot to put the spoiler back on and reassemble it. Now, a lot of repairs don't just R&I spoiler in one given and straight operation. They have to move the vehicle. So if they move the vehicle, they may have to resecure the headliner temporarily. They may have to reattach it. So that time to resecure it, support it, reattach it is not included. And then that way, when it's time for reassembly, you can drop it and then reassemble it and then resecure the headliner to its final stage. Mitchell recently added an inquiry for a Chevy Cruze. In this procedure, it required some rivets and adhesive to be used in the sheet metal repairs. And the repair in this case was manually adding those rivets and adhesives when it could have been selected from the database from an OEM part. So now they're adding those rivets and adhesives to the databases through a DEG inquiry. So there's a lot of advantages, not just for adding parts, but also from labor and adding the OEM consumables that are needed in the repair process as more and more vehicles are leaning toward rivet bonding procedures, and you have to use the corrected rivets and adhesives by the manufacturer that's prescribed in the repair manual. So this is another a great topic that we had on CCC's. Defining the ad for inside or the inside of a door shell or like a backside of an outer panel. So if you, real quick, do you guys see the picture in the top right corner, or is it blocked by my little meeting chat thing?
We can see it. Okay.
So this was an inquiry that came in asking to exactly define what the ad for edging, what the ad for inside, or what the backside of the panel was on the door shell, for example. And in this case, CCC and Motors define a door shell in this example to visualize the driver's side front door. The exterior surface paint time is for the door skin, which is on the outside of the car when the door is closed. Ad for inside of the door shell, this is the surface area that faces the driver and interior of the vehicle when the door is closed. So you can see how I got an arrow pointing to the inside area. The edge is the area between the exterior and the interior surface. This would be the crimped area of the door shell, outer panel, the area that faces the lock pillar. Now, in this inquiry came in questioning the actual application of refinished product on the backside because of corrosion protection or duplicating that factory appearance. And that backside area of the door shell, which is the backside of the door skin, is not included. And that's a manual line that you would have to consider, because the stage of completeness or the stage of quality that you're trying to achieve back there is going to vary from manufacturer to manufacturer, and they can't predict what it's going to take to do that. So this is another great type of inquiry you want to reference when it comes down to when you're painting the backside or documenting it to support why you're painting the backside of an outer panel. And this would be a very applicable to like quarter panels, outer like outer skins, sheet metal skins, or like a bedside when you're refinishing the backside. And keep in mind, a lot of times we're not refinishing the backside for refinishing. We're applying some kind of corrosion protection product back there. So whether it be like an epoxy primer, some kind of DTM, E-coat, easy coat type primer, where you're typically restoring corrosion protection on the backside, and it's not so much of a refinishing step, like we're performing on the outside of the vehicle. So these are, again, examples of why we want to use a DEG, whether it be, to add missing parts, fix errors or omissions in the databases, get clarification to P pages, because hopefully, if it's something that, that's a global issue, we can, address it through, our associations and get these languages added and updated through the P pages. So this is all advantages of using the DEG, which is a free resource to you at the end of the day. And again, if you have a question, reach out, ask the question. It's better to ask the question, and even if it's been answered multiple times, because if you didn't ask, you'll never know. If it's a question that's already been answered, I may respond with the previous inquiries or with the previous responses, or I'm going to sometimes even reply back with a challenge to you, showing you where to find it, but you will still find it yourself, because sometimes we need to be challenged on that on locating that information that's in front of us. So don't hesitate to reach out, because I'm here to help you. The associations are here to help you. We're here to help you, the end user, get that right information, be transparent with the customer, have knowing where to have it, and that way you see the same information that even the bill payer has on their side. And remember, none of this is directly associated with like profiles or specific setups or a guarantee to make this force anyone to pay for something. This is just for you to have the information, so that way you have the correct information of how the estimating systems were designed, how they work, and how the logic works on all three systems. It's up to us, the end users, to determine how we apply those operations, what those manual lines are, what the labor considerations we should be considering, things like that. So anytime you have a question, you need help, one of the three estimating systems, reach out. If it's a technical question regarding procedures, I'm going to guide you, to utilize like ICAR or the OEM repair procedures, because we're not a technical resource, but I will point you in the direction where to find those resources if you're having trouble. Again, I just want to be here to help you at the end of the day. So anything you need, reach out. My contact information is here. You can email me for the quickest response. You can call me. Like I said, we'll help you in any way we can. And again, if there's any questions you have, again, reach out and we'll be more than happy to help you. So again, any questions, feel free to ask away. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this presentation today.
Awesome. Thanks, Danny. I did get a question in, and is there any chance blueprinting or other operations that we all know is not included will get added to the database? One thing that really jumps to top of my mind is scanning. I know that scanning is pretty encompassing as far as looking for procedures and such afterwards, but the standard practice of it is relatively the same.
So scanning is, scanning has been a topic that we've been talking about, for a couple of years already. And one thing I think a lot of the databases are having a trouble with, is establishing a common time, is because every scanning operation is so unique and unique to that vehicle brand. There's so many variables involved, depending on, the condition of the car, how much power the car has, and hooking up a battery stabilizer to the vehicle. Also, you have to have the car running at a certain operating temperature. So that's why it's really important. The research it takes, has been established, is not included. The scanning operation itself is for example, CCC and Mitchell don't have scanning labor times, because there's so many variables involved, just like set up a measure of a unibody or a frame car using different types of equipment. What kind of equipment are you using? Are you using an aftermarket tool? Are you using an OEM one? They haven't defined that yet. The only estimating system that's starting to take a leap into there at this point is Auditex with the scanning labor values. And even then, they are starting to they're starting to acknowledge, which operations are being factored into them or not. So we are working with all three systems as far as getting definition, what's included, not included. So hopefully in 2021, we start seeing more language added to the databases as far as scanning goes. So great question.
Oh, awesome. Tony, you got any?
Yeah, we had one come in. So like Nissan has a lot of one-time use bolts for, airbag sensors and airbags and things like that. So do you need, every time we come across something like that, a copy of the publication from Nissan stating it's a one-time use and every single time, or since we know that Nissan stuff is one-time use a lot, just kind of your preferences, how we submit those?
It's best to submit any supporting documentation from the manufacturer if something's one-time use or not. That way it helps expedite the inquiry, and the response from the information provider. So as much information, when you submit an inquiry, it's really important to submit it, give me as much details as possible. I mean, one way or another, I'm going to eventually find it, but that makes a difference of if you're trying to get that answer by the next day or the following day, or if you're okay, things like that. So as much information possible, send it over so that way we can attach it to the inquiry, and that way the information provider can validate it, and there's less researching on our end, meaning that we can get it to them much quicker than not having it. Try not to go on our website and just submit inquiries that are just like, this sucks, the estimating system sucks, because that's not going to achieve much. But if you truly have a concern with hey, I'm working on this airbag and this clip is one-time use per the procedure, you can see by the red X, submit that with the screenshot of that X, in the, showing the one-time use, we'll get it forwarded off to them.
Danny, on the, we just ran into this one today on a Hyundai blind spot sensor, blind spot monitor in the back behind the bumper.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard anything about you having to replace those in pairs now?
Yeah, I was just watching what do you call it? Something about Subaru or some Kias where they're if you replace one, the other module may need to be replaced because of a superseded part. So again, if you see any kind of footnotes like that in the repair manual, submit it, because again, we want to see if we can get those footnotes added to the systems as well, so that way it points users in the right direction. But again, if they don't add it to the footnotes, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have to be done. You're still following their OEM repair procedures when it comes down to showing the bill payer and to the customer why it needs to be done and added, whether it be a superseded part, programming issue, et cetera, et cetera. But those are the type of things that we want to at least forward it off to them. And if they don't add it into the database, and guess what, we get enough inquiries over time that show the same common concern. Over time, something's it's gonna be brought up on a discussion or a meeting with the information providers, so that way they can start acknowledging those issues. Because it may not be added today, but maybe next year or the following year they're going to look at it and say, we're going to start adding that information on there. So the more people that submit these concerns, please do, because it helps create these changes, in things like feather, prime, and block to be added into the databases, or you have things like researching, and that was all because of people submitting those inquiries over the course of many years. And sometimes it gets added the same year, sometimes it gets added 3 years from now, but those are the changes that we want to eventually get to as an industry.
So with your systems, I never knew, I don't know how long ago you put in the owner's manuals, which I feel really dumb that I haven't caught that to this point in your system, but you guys are continually changing things. How important is it to you that these owners and shop technicians are reading the P pages, knowing them like the back of their hands? Because I think that's something that we're just not good as an industry. Everybody thinks they know it, but they're not reading them every couple of months like they probably should.
I always say you should know the owners, you should know the P pages to the bill payers program better than they know their own program. because at the end of the day, if you're working with them and supporting a repair plan, you have to be able to know it and support it. And that way, if you're using the same program as them, you have the confidence of the customer going to bat for them and ensuring that they're going to get reimbursed properly for that repair necessary based on the program that both they and you use together. Nothing worse than two separate entities using the same program, completely unknowing of the program that they use, and no one knows what the system is intended, and you're trying to fix a car. So you should first you should know the estimating system that you're using, they're using, and and even researching the repair manual, because don't assume that the bill payer is always going to research that the repair is needed for you, what's right or what's wrong. They rely on you, and it's your job to to document the necessary and required steps using the logic of the estimating systems.
Perfect answers. So I just got a question. Once somebody sends something to you and you can prove that something is not included, what percentage of luck are people having with getting it paid on that job before it is put into the system?
I don't have a percentage of as far as the success rate of actually getting reimbursed for it. From an industry wide, I can tell you from personal experience. Once I had it documented from the information provider, the OEM, or anything, I never had issues because I had the trust of the adjuster. I wasn't trying to one up them on anything. My relationship with the adjusters and the customers have always been, I don't want to get paid nothing more, nothing less. I just want to get paid for what I'm doing, and that's it. I'm not trying to, get paid, one up you. I'm not trying to, collect something on the back end. At the end of the day, this is what it takes for me to fix the car. How the bill payer gets there, that's between them and the customer. How I got there was between me and the customer, and this is following the OEM procedures, using the program that I'm using that's accepted by the industry. And again, if it came, and I never accepted the answer, it's a system difference, at the end of the day, because we hear that, as an industry, well, it's just a system difference. There's no system differences if everything's written correctly. At the end of the day, if everything's written correctly by the P pages using the non-included operations, I can repair a vehicle based on the dollar amount using the non-included operations. How I get there, that's just using those manual lines that you may have to consider. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm gonna share that Autotext requires the most amount of manual lines when it comes down to those manual entries and those common not included operations. It's capturing those and defining those on the estimate. Now, if the bill payer recognizes that or not, that's a whole separate conversation, and that's deviation from the program itself. We're not here to deviate from the program. We're here to work off the program that we're using. And when we negotiate with a bill payer, it's really important to ask the question, which system are we going to work off of, and which system are we going to negotiate off of, if that's the case, or if we're going to negotiate at all? Because many times I see a shop hand over a CCC estimate to a bill payer that uses Autotext and expects them to go click for click and expect the same exact estimate to be generated, which is not going to happen. That's called contaminating the repair plan. So it's really important. Are we going to use the bill payer system? If so, these are all the not included operations. If we're going to use my system, these are going to be my not included operations, and vice versa. My system has included operations that are different than your system. So it's really important to identify. It's not always not included operations, but what's included in the other program versus the others.
Great answer.
Fire them at me. I'm here. I got another couple hours.
Come on, guys, let's get the questions in for him. Remember, just like last week, we don't want to get to where Tony's singing here.
Free
I thought
answers.
you were going to sing the tomahawk chop.
Yeah, I gotta go. Well, I am not getting any more.
I don't see anything else coming in at this point.
It's all right. I'll probably get a flood of my inbox will be flooded tomorrow morning when I wake up, with all these questions, which I'm happy to answer. So I'm ready for it, So again, I came from the repair side of things. My background is technical. I'm a certified technician with a lot of the European manufacturers, and I'm very passionate about it. And that's what drove me into my repair planning and diving deep into this process. was because of having that, hands-on experience, and then turning that into the estimating experience. And, so I've been in the shoes of the technician. I've been in the shoes of an estimator. I've been in the role, I've managed, the repair, the shops. I've done everything except for accounting in a body shop. That's, I've swept the floors. So, when I'm having a conversation with the information providers, I truly, go to bat for the industry, from the technical side of things, from the repair side of things. But I also see it from all aspects of it. And there's, and that's why I always tell people, I don't want to get paid for anything more, nothing less, exactly for what I do. And that's the biggest thing is, being transparent and having that relationship with your adjusters, or, with the customer. So that way you can make it a smooth process for everyone involved and get that vehicle fixed correctly and accurately, and, without wasting much time, going back and forth. And a lot of the back and forth is because of not knowing, what the manufacturer requires, or, what the information providers have in their databases. So again, if you have any questions, reach out, and I'll point you in the direction where I can, or I'll just point you back to Tony and James here, and they'll give you everything you need.
Well, I'm serious, everyone. I hope this is a program more people start using, because the quicker you understand it, the quicker you're going to win more, just how it works. And Danny, we've talked and emailed, and he's helped me. Even if it comes to Volkswagens, he's your guy. The guy knows everything about them. So I want to thank you for your time. I think it was great. And, we got some people to spend some time on their business, not in their business, which is what this is all about. So.
Absolutely, Danny. Thank you so much for spending your Monday night with us. It is appreciated, and I second James's comments. We need more people using this program. I know you've helped me as well through a couple of things. I remember a Jeep Grand Cherokee, maybe, that when they first came out with that rear body panel, there was 14 different retainers and frame rail end caps and things like that had to be replaced at the same time, and none of that stuff was in the database with labor times or refinish times or anything, and you were able to get that fixed for all of us in the industry. And I think that's the key, right? It fixes it not just for our shop, but it fixes the industry. Thank you for everything that you do and spending your night with us.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And, again, and to the members out there, this is exactly why you're a part of an association, is because of, having a resource like this available. So know that, when you're supporting, your, NABA or CABA, or, any, this association, these associations are, in turn, supporting you guys by having this resource available to you. So keep that in mind. That's why you're part of this elite group, I call them. You're part of the circle of trust, so. Utilize it, take advantage of it. You have nothing to lose. Really, you have nothing to lose. And I get questions from all sides. Again, remember, I get questions from shops, I get them from repairs, I get them from insurance companies, because they're all looking to get the accurate information. So thank you guys for having me on tonight, and look forward to answering any questions you have for me in the future.
Thanks, Danny.
Awesome. Thanks, Danny. James, back to you to wrap us up, buddy.
So our next one is December 7th. It is going to be parts procurement with Mike Merrifield of the Woodhouse Wholesale World. And then we're going to have December 14th, generally accepted accounting principles, Mark Olson, founder of Vico. So two great ones coming up. And then we switch to every other week after the first of the year, correct, Tony?
Yeah, that's right.
So again, we want to thank all of our sponsors. They've made this happen, and everybody enjoy your turkey day and Thanksgiving, and spend it with your family, and don't drink too much.
See ya.
See you, everybody.